Hey there, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tosuke, and I'm back again with more Dragon Ball stuff. This time, I'm going to be reviewing the superhero arc of the Dragon Ball Super manga. This was the latest arc in the manga that adaptates the Dragon Ball Super superhero movie with some original stuff kind of in the beginning and the end, as you guys will hear about when I go over everything. And also, this is unfortunately the last thing of the manga, at least, that the original series creator Akira Toriyama worked on before he passed away in early March of this past year, um, that being 2024. So it hasn't really been a full year yet since he's passed, but we're all still thinking about things, and we're still not entirely sure how much he had left working on. We know he was heavily involved in Dragon Ball Daima. Um, so as far as we know, that's probably like Toriyama's swan song to us. That GIF, this last GIF, but he did also work on this because those who y'all who probably already know, and for those of you who don't know, Toriyama was drafting the story, and Toyotaro, another artist, was drawing it. And Toyotaro would kind of go back and forth with Toriyama and give him feedback and stuff. Um, but and he was also pretty heavily involved in Dragon Ball Superhero. I'll talk a little bit more about Toriyama stuff near the end. I have also posted on pretty much every social media that I use just a long sort of thing about Toriyama. I think YouTube here was probably the only one that actually got the post in full besides Facebook. And then also my podcast buddies and we got together and talked about Toriyama. So if you want to listen to that, you can. I'll try to have the links to stuff in the description and whatnot. But yeah, so this here is the review for the what I'm calling the superhero arc of the Dragon Ball Super manga. I don't know if it had an actual title or not like the other ones did, because the last one was called Granola the Survivor, and then the Moro stuff was I think the Galactic Patrol Prisoner. So as far as, I'd have to double check and look, but I'm pretty sure this was just the superhero arc, though like I said, it has some original stuff as well, which we actually get to kind of start with. So for those of you who are following along with both the series itself and my reviews, this arc covers chapters 88 to 103. We currently don't know too much about the future of the manga. They make it sound like the Toyotaro is going to continue writing it and drawing it. I'd wager maybe this time, instead of just him, we might have someone else drafting the stories. It's kind of hard to say. And again, we don't know how much Toriyama had planned. He's kind of famous for not really planning too much. So it seemed like he was trying to be a little more mindful with Dragon Ball and this sort of past season with the super stuff and all that. That's just kind of my opinion. I have no idea what was going on. So don't anything that I say about Toriyama, don't take that as fact or anything. That's just entirely my opinion. Not unless I say it was stated elsewhere that this happened or whatever. And like I said, we'll get to that later on. But yeah, so the chapter starts off, or the arc rather, it starts off kind of where we left off somewhat with Granola, where it showed Goku and Vegeta and Whis and all them kind of trying to fly back and be like, let's have some yakisoba. Well, they get back and they have their yakisoba and they take naps, whereas Vegeta, he's staring off to the sky thinking about Frieza and his new Black Frieza form, thinking about, I'm going to defeat you. And this one's actually in color. So we get to actually see Black Frieza in color, which I think overall it looks okay. I don't like how his torso is basically the same color as his regular form. It kind of looks like he's just wearing a cosplay of his regular final form over his black form. I don't know if that's deliberate, because I remember the whole Golden Frieza thing. The big thing with that was he wasn't used to it, so he kind of just discovered the form and then came out. Though here it seems more like he trained and kind of figured it out. And a lot of people are thinking that the next arc will be Black Frieza. Obviously, we're all looking at Daima and sparking Zero right now, but that's what's everyone thinking. And it seems like with this first panel, this first page, or not first page, it's like maybe like the third or whatever. You know what I mean. But it seems like they're maybe hinting towards that. But yeah, so we get a few color pages, which that's kind of cool because we never really get color stuff, like full color stuff in Dragon Ball with the actual like main sort of like serialization. We would get sort of like the off color thing back in the day, and then of course we get the full color version, down the line. But yeah, so we then move on to showing Goten and Trunks, who are basically their own versions of the Great Saiyaman thing. They are considered tidy up heroes, specifically Saiyaman X-1 and X-2. I'm probably going to say X1 and X2 to make things simple. I don't know how they're going to call it, but and even in my notes here, I have the dash because I was taking notes as I was reading it, and like I said in my vlog, I was like literally studying the arcs. Yeah, so they basically are tidy up heroes, and they modeled their sort of shtick after a video game character named Clean God that Trunks and Goten are apparently into. Trunks is apparently a video game guy now, and this is clearly them trying to kind of set up the whole superhero motif thing. But yeah, that's sort of their thing. Like their whole thing is like they clean up the bad guys and all that. But yeah, so some thugs, they rob a jewelry store, and then Trunks and Goten come in to beat them up. And then Goten gets a bulletin that there was another theft, and Trunks gets ready to like sort of suit up and go, but Goten's all like, oh wait, no, it's actually a cyber attack. And then Trunks is all like, oh man, I wanted to beat up some bad guys and be cool. But and then Chi-Chi calls Goten and yells at him to come home and wonders where he was because they haven't told their family about the whole superhero thing, so they don't really know what's going on. Goten goes back to his school uniform because he has to wear school uniform, which, by the way, he and Trunks go to school now, by the way. They fly off, and Trunks decides to change when he gets home, and Dr. Briefs notices him while he's trying to hide. And Trunks, he's trying to play it cool and say he's not a superhero and stuff, but his pet T-Rex, yes, he has a pet T-Rex, because, okay. That's both kind of funny, but also think like, Trunks comes from a rich family, so obviously they could afford a fucking T-Rex. His T-Rex, Dina, recognizes him, and he tries to cuddle with him. And Briefs is all like, that's weird, he's only like that with family. I probably should have clarified that Trunks is still in his Saiyaman X1 outfit. I'm pretty sure he's X1. He might be X2, but I think he's X1, because, people like Trunks, and I like Trunks. And Trunks says that everyone loves superheroes, and he tells Dino to sit, which he listens. And then he flies off. And Pan, she's apparently starting kindergarten, and so the Briefs are trying to get her a present, including some flowers and stuff. And Dino starts barking, and robots are running away from something, and Dr. Reef turns, and he looks and sees a zombie, and everyone starts freaking out. So that's kind of like a little foreshadow about what's going on. And the next day, Pilaf is now like a mechanic dude working for Capsule Corporation, and he makes Trunks a watch like Gohan, so he can turn into... Yeah, thank you, Notes, for clarifying me. He's Saiyaman X1, so he gets a little watch thingy so he can turn into Saiyaman X1 without any issue. Trunks says that as long as he holds up his end of the bargain, he won't say anything to Bulma about Pilaf taking the Dragon Balls. And then Bulma happens to come in, and she's all like, what's going on? Trunks, oh, nothing. I have to save the future. Just kidding. Attention, all Proud Warriors. Just kidding. I'm confused on what Trunks I am. And Bulma's like, yo, dog, you're late for school. And then Mai and Shu come back carrying like a big box, and Trunks, his crush on Mai has like intensified ever since the Goku Black arc. We haven't seen that since now, I don't believe, but yeah, that's been going on. And he's like, I'll help you, Mai. It's quite clear that he wants Mai's wee-wee zone, even though there's a significant age difference, even though they look about the same age. But Mai now looks about how she looked in the Goku Black arc. She has the body of a teenager now, and of course Trunks is an actual teenager. So, but he tries to say that he wants to talk to her, but he gets scared, and he says that he'll talk to her later. he goes to school, and then Bulma says, well, I know that Pilaf took the Dragon Balls, and I need you to give them back and not make any nasty wishes. I think she's saying that to Pilaf. My notes are a little kind of... It's been a while since I've read these chapters. I read them as they came out. I still collect the volumes, but with Dragon Ball Super is really the only manga at this point. It was the only manga that I was reading during this whole thing, besides Vampires and Citrus Plus a little bit. But that was sort of more just like whenever. But this was like the actual like real like sort of simul-published that I was actually reading. It came out like every month around the 20th, so that was kind of nice to look forward to. And so Trunks and Goten, they go to school. Trunks is running late. Not unlike a typical anime schoolgirl, but he gets a hot dog on the way over real fast and stops a guy in his car from littering with a soda can because, he's, the cleany guy. He can't clean stuff. And it could have hurt a baby by doing some finger flick thing. He's like... That kind of hits the guy in the head. Trunks tries to sneak into the class through the window, and he thinks he's in the clear, but the teacher notices him and says that he can't sneak in even if he's the heir to the Capsule Corporation, which is good to know. So they're kind of keeping up with that. He gets a tardy slip and takes his sleep and talks to his buddies. Apparently, his buddy's name is Compass. About how he doesn't want to run Capsule Corporation. He wants to do something more exciting. That's his big thing with this little intro arc. He's like, I wish something cool would happen. I want to do cool things like protect the future and run an army of future soldiers to protect the future. But and his other school friend Rula tells him about seeing a ghost on Mount Butterfly from the hockey team since he's looking for more adventure in his life. Trunks, he does not like scary things. He gets a bit spooked, and he declines the offer, trying to be cool about it, but he's actually a scaredy wee pants. And then, Trunks meets up with Goten near the end of the school day, and it's like, hey, you want to hang out and play video games? And they play the Clean God game on his, Sega Saturn or whatever. I don't remember what game system it is that they show. It's probably just some, makeshift, PS4 or whatever. And he's basically saying he wishes he could fight bad guys, in actual, real life, instead of fighting bad guys in video games. Very typical, I just wish something crazy would happen. And Goten notices Trunks' new transformation watch, and he gets jealous of it, and he wants, one as well. And Trunks says he tried it out earlier to buy tickets to the Clean God movie, because there's apparently a Clean God movie coming up. Goten gets excited about going with Trunks, but he says he was only able to get 2, and he wants to, ask Mai out. So Goten's all, oh man, and Trunks is like, I owe you, bro. You can help me save the future. And he goes to ask out Mai, but she says no because it's not really her thing. And Pilaf interrupts her and says that they're all busy trying to repair a bunch of robots that got brought in to Capsule Corporation. They got recalled because they stopped obeying their orders, and Pilaf thinks that someone tampered with the robots. She mentions that there's a rumor of bad guys coming in at night, and Trunks asks if he can catch the bad guys. Will that mean that Mai will be free to see the movie? And Pilaf says, well, yeah, she will be. So Trunks is like, okay, Goten, we're going to go do this and save the future. No. I don't know why I'm continuing to run with this joke that present time Trunks is the same Trunks as future Trunks. Quite frankly, I think that's one thing I'm trying to I think that's one thing we need to understand, that future Trunks and adult Trunks in the present time are basically two different characters. And I actually think that's actually a good reason to have future Trunks have the long hair like he did during the Cell Game stuff. Because then that gives us a reason to sort of have a differentiation between the two, because they're basically two different characters. Of course, here I am kind of being part of the problem by comparing this character to future Trunks, even though, like I just said, he's not actually future Trunks. But, so they try to go find the bad guys, and they go into a neighborhood at night, and Trunks gets scared, and Goten knows that both their dads have, died and came back as ghosts, and Trunks is all, that's not the same, dog. And they bump into what looks like a zombie. Trunks gets even more scared and runs off into the corner and hides, while also knocking his watch against a pole by accident. Goten thinks this zombie guy is the culprit, and they watch him press a button on a robot that's passing by with its owner, and the robot stops and runs off. a car comes by and picks up the zombie guy, and Trunks and Goten follow it to a mansion in Mount Butterfly. So Goten wants to check the place out. There we go. And Goten thinks it's too dark and late, so he wants to come back by daylight because he is most likely scared. And Goten's like, but what about your smoking hot GF? She loves you. She actually doesn't. And Trunks, he reluctantly agrees because he wants, the My Zone. He wants to unlock the My level, if you know what I mean. And they peek into a nearby window and they see robots are inside making sushi boxes. And there's also a mummy guy who notices Goten and Trunks after a while and's like, who are you guys? And then other kids went there as well. They see other kids there, particularly Trunks' school friends, because they went there for a dare and they got caught. And one of the kids is getting choked out by the mummy guy, and Trunks is trying to use his watch to transform, but it's not working. But then it finally does, and he jumps and kicks the mummy's, hand away from the kid. And Trunks tries to do a cool introduction, but he recognizes him. He's like, yeah, you're a big fan. And Trunks is like, that's cool, but I want to do my own intro, dog. And they fight the zombies. He tries to do all, these cool, punches and stuff on... There's this, football player zombie, but it doesn't really hurt him that much. The zombie is apparently built different. Whatever that means. And he tries to do a stronger punch, but the costume runs out of juice, because that's apparently a thing, and now everyone can see him. And so Goten shoots an energy blast at the light to turn the lights off, and he teleports the kids away, or zaps them away. Goten tries to also explain that they were seeing an illusion and the kids run off, this place is totally haunted. And here Trunks goes Super Saiyan, and then turns his costume back on, because apparently it had juice now. I'm guessing what happened was that, because it got damaged, sort of the on-off switch got jarred or something, so maybe it didn't actually run out of juice. It just sort of, short-circuited for a little bit. And he gets a chance to be I'm going to introduce myself. I am Saiyaman X1 for the Super Nintendo. And then he beats up the football zombie. And then Goten turns the light up back on, and Trunks realizes that he beat everyone up before getting more information about them. So they search for the place, and they find a data disk that has Dr. Giro's name. It has Dr. Nero's name on it. Dr. Giro's name on it. And Krillin, he shows up, being a police officer because he heard about all this stuff, and he's looking around. And Krillin's all like, hey, you boys shouldn't be out this late. And asks if they saw The Walking Dead. And Trunks like, yeah, it's my favorite TV show. No, but he's asking if they have seen any sort of corpses, because they get a report. He's been getting a report of corpses being stolen from a morgue. And Trunks then realizes, oh shit, I fought actual zombies. And he freaks out. And they all leave. But then Dr. Hedo, from the superhero movie, he comes in with burgers in a bag, and he's like, what happened? And the football guy's like, some dude beat us up. And he shows them, a picture of the school crest. So Dr. Hedo kind of knows where they go to school. Probably from the kid who got, choked out or something, maybe, part of his uniform tore or something. Again, it's been a while. I don't remember all the details. Of course, a lot of times, this is Dragon Ball after all. Sometimes details are sort of left out. But, and he also says that they took the data disk, and Hedo gets worried because there was only one. He needs to find a way to get funds some other way. And then Trunks tries to ask Mai about, their little movie plans. But unfortunately, because of the battle that happened the day prior, a bunch of robots came in, and so they'll be busy for a long time. Then Trunks gets all sad. He's like, oh, my girlfriend. So a few days after the Mount Butterfly thing, Trunks looks into the data that was on Dr. Hedo's disk, but there's too much security, so he can't really see. So he tries using Bulma's. And he is able to get in using Bulma's computer or whatever. And he sees what looks like a blueprint of a larval form of Cell, which is interesting, kind of tying into Cell Max, it seems. This intro bit is meant to kind of set up these other characters. But then, another security thing shows up in the form of, a virus. And, of course, Trunks doesn't even recognize Cell anyway because, this is present-time Trunks. And Bulma catches Trunks and yells at him for breaking her laptop. But Bulla, or Bruh, depending on where you get your Dragon Ball fix, She fixes it because she's more like Bulma now, apparently, which that's kind of cool. Bulma complains that Trunks got all of Vegeta's traits, but none of hers. But she is thankful that Bola has hers. And so Bulma also tells Trunks that he has a new special job now, where Mai is actually going to go to Goten and Trunks' school because it looks weird that Mai looks around the same age as, or she says that, kind of jumping the gun, but she says because it looks kind of weird. This might be some sort of culture thing. This doesn't really make a lot of sense, but she says like it looks weird that like there's someone of Trunks' age working and not going to school, which is strange. But yeah, I'm just gonna say it's a good reason to put Mai in a school uniform, where she looks pretty good. So she wears the uniform and everything, and that might spark rumors. And this kind of implies a little bit, I think, that maybe they're aware at this point of how old Mai actually is. Which kind of reminds me of that scene in Battle of Gods where Bulma talks to Mai, and she's like, how old are you? And she's like, 41 in March. So Trunks, they go to school, and Trunks is basically being protective man and telling all the guys to buzz off. Other students think she's mature and cool. But then another transfer student shows up, and his name is Beta. Gee, I wonder who he is. Mai notices him and seems to want his wee-wee device. So it would seem. And this, of course, is making Trunks a little jail. Trunks is poning noobs in basketball like a real pro, but Mai doesn't really seem to care. But then Beta gets the ball from Trunks, and in order to win against his new rival, he legit teleports in front of the hook. But Beta is able to get around him to score the point, whatever. Trunks is mad, and Mai seems to be watching him. But at this point, I think I started to pick up that like, okay, this isn't like sort of like oh, look at the new boy, he's cute. Like she's actually trying to watch him. And they show Beta looking back at Trunks, and they show that like close eye up thing. It goes to Dr. Hedo and the gang watching their basketball game. So it seems like this Beta character might in fact be a Jinzo Ningen, aka an artificial human, aka an android. Yeah, he's watching them. They're trying to find the guy who stole the disc, and right now they're looking at Trunks, who of course is the guy who took it. He asked if this is the guy, and they say they don't think so because the guy who was beating them up was blonde. They're talking about the Super Saiyan hair, and also it was dark in the building, so they couldn't really see. Dr. Hiro, reveals then that Beta's actual name is Beta number 1. Gee, I wonder if that's going to come into play later on with the naming conventions. And he talks to him on some radio thing to try to find the culprit. During class, Trunks, tries to tell Mai that he'll smoke the new guy, and that was just, a fluke that he lost, and Mai's like, shut the fuck up. Like, don't tell me you have a crush on him. I'm better. And she says no, and says like, well, no, I'm watching him because he doesn't look human. Take a closer look at him. And they show what looks like zombie patches on the back of his neck. So he's sort of like a high-end zombie dude. And Trunks like, oh, ghoul. But Mai's like, he's maybe more like an android, but not really like 18. But Trunks also notices that he can't sense his Beta's energy. And he thinks to himself this guy might be trying to get revenge for what happened on Mount Butterfly. That he needs to make sure his secret identity of Superman, Saiyaman X1 doesn't get out. So, while they're walking in the hallway, Beta gets instructed to sort of by Mr. My words are just failing me tonight. It also might be because I am recording this not super long after eating dinner, but it's been a while. So I've got some weird peppy energy and also some slight reflux, but that's neither here or there. But Beta gets instructed by Dr. Hedo to see if Trunks has superpowers. So by doing that, he throws a football at Trunks, who's able to sense it and kneels down, acting like he has to tie his shoe. The football bounces around, he hits Trunks on the head and ends up knocking into a fire extinguisher that gushes out Beta, which is kind of funny how it sort of worked out. One of those things where like he was trying to look natural, but also ended up making himself look even more natural by just like fucking himself up. And during lunch, he's at the lunch counter thing, and he gets his portion of food, but he wants a larger portion of the soup, and the lunch lady won't give it to him. And Beta tries to spill his soup on Trunks, but he's able to dodge, and it lands on his bowl, so he gets like 2 things of soup, and he's like, oh, thanks, man, I wanted more soup. And Beta's like, oh yeah, no prob, bruh. I don't eat too much because I'm on a diet or whatever. It's kind of funny how it works out. And then they show Beta and Trunks competing in some sort of like math thing. And Trunks doesn't get the answer right, but, Hedo gets excited that they gave Beta more brain power. And the football player guy's like, okay, but he doesn't help. Or doesn't really help much. I need this small victory, says Hedo. So apparently Beta's better at math. And after school, while they're leaving, Beta's getting ready to like smash some like wooden planks on Trunks, but he sees Goten lifting up a whole car to get a ball. It's like, oh, that must be him. So they think that he's the culprit. So Hedo gives the okay to attack because Goten didn't even realize that he wasn't paying attention. And also it was the fact that like maybe he talked to Goten and be like, hey, this guy's following me. Or Trunks talked to Goten and was like, this guy's following me. Maybe that's what happened, but yeah, so he rips off his school uniform to expose his superhero outfit, and he confronts Goten. Goten thinks he looks cringe, and Trunks hopes he doesn't have to actually fight Beta here. Beta says he's Dr. Hedo's masterwork, and Goten says he's never heard of him. And Beta attacks, and Goten is dodging and shit and tells him to knock it off because school isn't the place for this. It's not nice to fight in school, dog. And Beta tries to get him to give the disc back, but Goten doesn't even really know what he's talking about because, again, Trunks is the one who took it. Trunks is able to recognize that Beta is stronger than the other zombies, and so he asks Mai to hold his bag while he goes to the bathroom because he has to make the major dookies. He doesn't actually say that, but he's trying to change into Saiyaman X2. Goten is about to start fighting back for real, but then Saiyaman X1 comes in just in time, and the football zombie then recognizes him as the culprit. And then so Dr. Hedo lets Beta know. Trunks tells Goten to get to safety, quote unquote, and hands him a transformation thingy so that he can, a watch thingy, so he can become, Saiyaman X2. Beta and Trunks starts fighting. Mai feels like she knows Saiyaman X1 from somewhere, and Dr. Hedo thinks Saiyaman X1 is cool, but also tells Beta to win stuff and that he knows what to do. So they're battling and stuff, and Beta presses his belt buckle and goes inside a big robot that he calls Beta 2. Like literally like a robot within a robot, I guess. He fires a rocket and Trunks tries to stop it by grabbing it and throwing it back. It lands in the sea near Dr. Hedo's base, and they keep fighting, and Beta falls down in his robot thing and knocks Mai over. Beta notices the disc inside Trunks' bag because, she was holding it. Hedo sees it too, and they tell him to grab it, and Mai tries to pick up the bag, and so Beta ends up grabbing Mai. And Trunks says, stop hurting my girlfriend. I love her. You're going to crease her newly pressed school uniform. Her mom's gonna kill her because they spent $300 on that one outfit. They could only afford one school uniform. Tomorrow she's gonna have to sneak in her pink plaid button-up that she for whatever reason has. I don't know. And he starts up, and then Beta starts firing a bunch of missiles at the students, doing his best Vegeta's technique impersonation. I like how that everyone calls that now, just shooting a flurry of energy blasts. That's Vegeta's technique, specifically. Trunks gets in and deflects them all, but Beta fires more and flies off while the lower half of Beta 2 keeps firing. So, I guess they, split. I don't remember that at all, actually. Because I remember this whole scene. But, anyway, while Trunks is deflecting the missiles, Goten comes in as Saiyaman X2, and he starts helping and finding the lower half firing the missile, so I guess they split somehow. Trunks tells him to go rescue Mai, that he'll handle the missile pants guy. Also Beta 2. I guess that's what Beta 1.5 or whatever. Trunks then fires off a cool wind blast that he calls the Steam Cleaner High Pressure. Definitely a little bit of Gotenks influence coming in here with them wanting to name all their attacks cool names. The blast destroys the top half of Beta 2 and strips Beta 1 to his undies and lets go of Mai, who starts falling. Trunks rescues her, and she sees him more like future Trunks, and it turns her on. He's like, oh, yay. So, seems like things are maybe moving forward. Probably not. Once he makes sure she's okay, he flies back to the fight with the rest of Beta number 2. They win pose for all the students, and they fly off and come back as their regular. So it's like, oh, what happened? Trunks' actual Trunks comes back and checks on mine. It's all, lol, were there super people here? Man, that sucks. I wasn't there. Oh man, I love superheroes. They make me horny. And then Mai's like, well, that just proves that you don't like me, so I'm going to go date some other guys. Like, no! I'm just kidding. She talks about old feelings coming back and that Saiyaman X1 is impressive, and Trunks, he's blushing and he's about to reveal his secret, but then Goten covers his mouth and stops him because they're still in front of the school and in front of everyone. Maya says she hopes to see Saiyaman X1 again. Trunks gets annoyed that she likes Saiyaman X1 and not him. It's like, oh, she likes my alter ego. I guess in some level, that's kind of her. You know, thinking about that actually kind of makes sense because, you know, like with the future Trunks, even though they're literally the same person, they're also not at the same time because they've grown up in different lives. Beta returns and apologizes to Dr. Hedo for failing, and Dr. Hedo thinks the superhero thing was cool and asks if Beta got their autographs and say no, I didn't because we were fighting. It's like, oh, of course they are most evil, and he plans on making stronger androids that are like superheroes, and he wants to start with their capes. So yeah, once again, they're really kind of trying to set up superhero, which is kind of interesting that they are going this route. Like, I'm wondering if was this filler just to kind of for people to make sure people had enough time to digest the movie, or did they legitimately think that the movie needed more substance? Because yeah, the movie had like maybe I saw a couple issues with the movie, and I will go ahead and say that one of my biggest ones does get rectified pretty quickly. But, you know, besides that, it's like, I don't feel like of course I saw the movie, so obviously I don't need, you know, extra info, but then they show Krillin going into town asking citizens about where the corner store is where Dr. Hedo had his zombies work. And the guy shows them where it's at, but also a woman runs by because zombie that lost his eyes trying to chase after the woman. And she left all the stuff she bought. So, and then Krillin barges in and tries to arrest the zombies, but runs into Mai as well. The zombies try to sneak by while he is distracted, but he stops them. So, Krillin being cool cop guy. Meanwhile, Goten is flying to school on the Nib is playing his Switch or whatever, but he stops and takes the bus after he gets into town in order to keep his long commute a secret, which is kind of weird that he's trying to. I guess it's just to look more human so that they don't have to like be superhero, because like obviously he can fly. Some waifu chick asks Goten how he knows Trunks, and Goten says that their parents are all friends, and then the waifu-chan is all like, she tries to get Goten to ask Trunks to invite her to the school dance that's this weekend. Goten tries to cover and says that he can't do it, but then some fat, you know, Elvis-looking dude named Beta number 7 shows up and stops the bus. And he calls out for Goten, specifically saying that he knows he's one of the I was about to say Super Spider-Man. Yeah, my brain's weird right now. That he's one of, you know, the Seiya Cleany people. One of Goten's friends lets him slip out the back of the bus, and he turns into Saiyaman X2, and he starts fighting Beta at number 7. Waifu-chan, whose apparently name is like Filer, whatever. I'm guessing they're trying to go for the school supplies, like Erasa and then Sharpener from Gohan's school back in the day. But she notices that it's weird that Goten always leaves whenever Saiyaman X2 shows up. But either way, Saiyaman X2 / Goten beats up Beta number 7. So, yeah, things are starting to kind of heat up with this little small rivalry going on. And guess what? We're not even at the main arc yet. But Trunks and Mai are walking to school, and one of the students is handing out flyers for the dance and gives one to Trunks, saying that Clean God will be there. So Trunks asks if it's the real one. The students lie, saying he did, even though they just showed him kicking back a costume. So, like, you know, the real one, but also not the real one. Trunks is about to ask Mai to the dance, but she jumps in and is like, you want to go? It's like, let's go. And he says he needs to get a new outfit for it. Meanwhile, Mai is noticing a bug kind of flying around. So, and then they show Dr. Hedo watching the school with said bug, but he gets excited after hearing that Clean God will be there. He's like, I'm going to get the disc back later because I want to go to this party. So, one of the zombies asks how it's going to work without being a student. Dr. Hedo says he'll just make a girl robot. So, what? Is he just going to pretend to be a student there? Trunks tells Goten that Mai invited him to the party and that he has to go buy new clothes so he can't hang out today. After Trunks leaves, Goten then goes off to do whatever the fuck he was going to do. But then Mai pulls him away, and she says that she's being watched and that she did some research on Dr. Hedo and learned that he's a famous scientist, but he also is like super into superheroes. And that Mai says she's going to try and lure him in with the party as a bait and beat him up. Not literally beat him up, but like try to do something. Goten says it isn't the job of a hero, and Mai says she's tired of being a damsel in distress. Good for her. She's cool. And then that's when Goten realizes that Mai only invited Trunks because of this plan. And then he gets worried that he's going to be sad because he got so pumped. But Mai tells Goten to keep this plan under wraps. We then get to the party. Goten and his waifu-chan Filer. I think it's supposed to be Filer. Because, like filer for like papers and stuff. Again, I think it's supposed to be a pun on school supplies or office supplies, kind of like eraser and sharpener. Like I literally just said moments ago. But yeah, they're there to spy on Mai, or like sort of keep her in check. She actually looked pretty good. She had like this collared dress thing, and Goten has a tux of sorts. And then Trunks comes in wearing a epic 3-piece suit, and Mai's wearing night armor. She's wearing night armor. I don't know why. I don't know. You know how it is. Some of these characters have to make statements. But yeah, I actually really like the collared dress thing that a lot of like anime and like Japanese icons will do sometimes. I don't know if that's specifically a Japanese thing, but I've seen that recently. I think it's actually really cute. Trunks checks the desk at the door of the party, and the band are playing some jams, and then a student's all like, "Clean God is coming." Trunks tries to get Mai to come up front, but she turns him down. Trunks goes up to the front, and he also goes up to the front, and that also happens to be where Dr. Hedo is, and they talk for a bit. It's kind of funny how they're enemies, but like they're actually kind of buddies right now. And Hedo shows off his rare Clean God shirt, and he says that the actual reason why he's here specifically is because he used to have a autograph from that same sort of event that he got the Clean God shirt, but it got stolen, so he's coming back to get another one. This is more than likely what's on the disc that Trunks took. That's what I think, at least. Mai tries to attack Hedo with the Zappy gun, but Beta number 1, he shows up and he stops the gun, but then Krillin shows up and he tries to arrest Dr. Hedo for stealing the bodies from the morgue. He got a tip from Mai, actually, which he thanks her for. She gets a little salty that she isn't the one nabbing Hedo, unfortunately, so it's like, oh, I wanted to do stuff. Hedo shoots a smoke thing and escapes, and Krillin plans to follow Hedo alone and out of sight to try to find his lair. Hedo also apparently stole everyone's, stuff at the dance, including Trunks's, stuff with the disc on it. He probably did that deliberately, specifically to try to find the. I wonder if he would try to return everything after finding the disc, or if he was just going to keep everything. Mai tells him to go after the bad guys and said that he is X-Man, number Seiya. Saiyaman number 1. So she knows that he's a Saiyaman X1. And Trunks, he asks, did you know? And wonders if it was just, future Trunks that she was seeing. And she says it wasn't possible because this Trunks is the only Trunks Mai has, which makes Trunks feels good. He's like, you're the only Trunks that I ever Trunksed. But of course, Mai's all like, bro, no homo. And then Trunks says that he's going to catch Hedo and be the strongest. And he's asked if he wins, if she will go out with him. And she reluctantly agrees to as many dates as Trunks wants. I'll go on as many. It's kind of, thinking about it, it's almost like, I just realized this is almost more like a big sister, little brother thing. I wonder if that's what they were intending. But, he and Goten rush off in the suit and dressed up as Clean God shows up, but everyone is gone and Mai calls him a poser. So apparently he was just a student. I don't know how I missed that. As I'm reading these notes, I'm noticing they're actually not really that well written, probably because I was writing down just whatever happened, and I'm literally going page by page. So sorry if this is a bit more detailed than y'all needed. Obviously, when we get to the superhero section, since that's mostly the same with some small stuff, I'll just kind of recap that with some things that I took note of. But anyway, Goten and Trunks, they catch up to Krillin, who is following Hedo. Krillin explains that Hedo is actually Dr. Giro's grandson, which is something we learn in the movie, or they show in the movie. Where we also learn about that Android 21 is, in fact, Dr. Giro's wife. And they play on the whole thing of, 16 being his son. Which Krillin apparently got a call that Hedo is being targeted by another group from someone who is perhaps from the Red Ribbon Army, because they've been tracking Hedo. And he basically explains that the Red Ribbon people are low-key trying to bring everything back and get Hedo back and to do some bad stuff, probably to kill Goku, as you do. But Goten and Trunks get excited because this is their chance to beat up like some legit bad guy. And Krillin's like, "This isn't a game. Don't tell your mom, Goten, or I'll beat you up." Okay. And then I'll pee on you. Okay. And then I'm going to take your nose and put it on my face so that I'll have a nose. He doesn't actually say that, but he does say, like, "Don't tell your mom." Real talk, though, I actually really like seeing this more mundane stuff for Dragon Ball. Even though it was kind of a pain watching these filler episodes in between the big arcs of Super, it was kind of nice seeing these characters do like different things, and also it gives some of these voice actors, both in the Japanese and the English version, to kind of join the cast as like smaller characters. Like we got Nobuyuki Hiyama and that movie arc where Gohan is part of that Great Saiyaman movie and all that shiz. But yeah, so they get to Hedo's base and he reveals a big dinosaur android that's like swole and shit. His name is Dino Droid number 1. And so Hedo uses Dino Droid number 1 to attack and they fight. He's tough and he's giving the good guys a hard time, though he doesn't really have a lot of brain power. He just kind of destroys whatever. Trunks tries to fire a Ki Blast, but doesn't do much. Krillin suggests that it might have a mechanical part as a weakness, and he jumps around on the Dino Droid's back to try to find it, which he finds a little battery thing, and he uses a Destructo Disc on the Dino's neck area. He must have been watching Attack on Titan that night, which causes damage and makes the dinosaur freeze in place. Goten and Trunks, they go Super Saiyan, and then they attack with like a big charge and send the Dino Droid flying. They call it Double Hurricane. Technically, Cyclone-style tornado Double Hurricane, but Novocaine. "I'm going to give you Novocaine. I'm going to make you not feel anything." No, don't do that. But I don't know why it says technically. I don't know. Probably like a translation thing. I read the Viz translation when this was coming out. I think there are fan translations available that are probably more faithful to the Japanese with less sort of like dubisms, because that's the thing. Like even though the manga is supposed to be kind of a more pure version of the text, they do have a little bit of a. I think so. I don't know if they use Krillin or Kudiden for the translation. I'd have to look back and see for the Super, at least, because I know in the Dragon Ball manga they did. And depending on what version you read, they would either say Wolf Fang Fist or Roga Fufuken or Fist the Wolf Fang Gale or whatever, some like transliterated name or whatever. But anyway, they bust the dinosaur. They bust the dinosaur in half, guys. No, they bust the dinosaur in half, and Krillin arrests Dr. Hedo, and they open the disc and reveals a signed picture from the Clean God. So yeah, it was in fact the data disc. It turns out that the disc was just for holding the photo. There wasn't like any like secret data on it besides maybe the larva thing. So he is arrested, and all the zombies go back to their families, and they all get a lighter sentence of just like 3 months. But Dr. Hedo had apparently had another robot bug to try and work remotely so he can continue with his plan to create the ultimate android. So, and that's the little baby intro arc. So the next section of this arc is still sort of like a precursor thing, but it kind of more ties closely into the movie, because we are shown Piccolo, and he's waiting to pick up Pan from school like they showed him doing like in the movie. I don't think they showed this specific scene in the movie, but it's it's what he's been doing lately. She comes out and she greets him, and he takes her to his house while they wait for Gohan and Videl to be like finished with whatever they're doing, so that they can pick him up. And Piccolo says that they've got some time to kill anyway, But Pan, kind of where this ties into sort of like the previous, like she makes references to like, the Saiyaman X1 and 2 stuff from before. And she also says that Goten and Trunks' grades were slipping, so Chi-Chi got mad and made them both stop being superheroes for the time being. I guess that's maybe to explain why, since we just established that Goten and Trunks have their superhero thing, maybe to explain why it takes them so long to help with the good guys when we get to Cell Max and all that. Because, spoiler alert, this does follow the movie. So, which is both good and bad. I think you can maybe almost see it as like a slight filler thing. It's obviously not filler because it's in this, but I think more people were probably hoping for another original arc, which we might get soon. I think at this point, I'll go ahead and say, from what I understand, there's a lot of controversy going around with the rights to Dragon Ball, which I'll go more into that later on. I don't know everything, so that's going to be severely paraphrased. You'll have to kind of look up the information on your own if you want to know more. But yeah, so basically, yeah, Goten and Trunks, they got in trouble for being superheroes, and they can't do superhero stuff right now. But they show Pan trying to catch a frog, and she almost falls off a cliff, but I guess Piccolo, stops and he's like, "You're fearless. You want to train?" And she wants to be like a superhero anyway, so she gets all excited. And there's this kind of funny scene, which shows Piccolo getting ready to take off his hat and cloak, and he's like, "I'll mold you into the perfect little demon." But then, like, the next shot shows Pan just, like, riding Piccolo on top, holding his antennas. It's kind of funny, thinking about, Piccolo having sort of, like, that edge, to him. Piccolo, if we're going to compare him to another character, because I've recently been made aware of how much people compare Dragon Ball to Sonic the Hedgehog. Piccolo is very much the Knuckles of the group, sort of like, the once bad guy turned good, but like now he's more known for being a good guy. Whereas I feel like with characters like Shadow and Vegeta, you remember that they were once bad guys. I don't think Sonic has a Beerus equivalent yet. All these other characters that they've introduced, are basically, other people. We have a Trunks in Silver. And I guess depending on how you look at Blaze, she might be 18, but that's a different subject anyway. We next see Krillin meeting at the police place, and they're having a meeting about the possibilities of the Red Ribbon Army coming back, where Krillin explains and they talk about how they basically sort of like explain what's kind of going on, stuff that Magenta kind of does in the car scene from the movie. Basically, the character Magenta, played by Charles Martinet in the English dub, he's running the Red Ribbon Army now, and he's using the funds that they get from the pharmacy that they run for the army so that they can enlist the help of Dr. Hedo, I guess, to be able to afford to have them instead of just being like, "Work for us." Krillin expounds further, talking about how Dr. Hedo is Dr. Giro's grandson, and how he inherited data of like a bioweapon, probably Cell Max, if we're being honest, but more than likely a blueprint from Dr. Giro, and that he is a threat. Or that it is a threat. So they kind of know what's going on, which I guess kind of explains why everyone kind of shows up once Cell Max kind of becomes a thing. Of course, at the same time, you can maybe argue that Bulma called everyone and be like, "Hey, we need your help." There's a little bit of over-explaining going on, and that's, I think, probably one thing I'm noticing with this, for lack of a better term, Toyotaro era of Dragon Ball. Some of it, I think, might also be Toriyama, from what we're seeing from Daima. I won't say too much about that since we're not there yet. But there seems to be a lot of like exposition and over-explaining of stuff going on, and I guess that's one thing I'm sort of not really liking with this current era of Dragon Ball, especially in the manga. Thankfully, it hasn't happened very much lately at all. I think Toyotaro has sort of started to kind of figure out how to craft this story in a way that works well. And again, I think some of this may in fact have been Toriyama as well. That's just my opinion. I don't know anything for sure, but and I don't mean any disrespect on him either. But it seems like they're maybe trying to set up things a little too much. Again, this is this is something I feel like this is mainly just because I'm watching Daima right now as I'm recording this. Not literally watching it as I'm recording it, but as far as like current things I'm doing with my life, watching Dragon Ball Daima, and I'm noticing some stuff in that I'm now starting to kind of connect here as well. But after this, we basically go straight into the movie. They show that beginning scene of Carmine and Magenta talking in his office. And they're talking about, the plan for world domination. Then 3 months later, Hedo gets out of prison, blows it up, and they drive up Magenta and Carmine in the car. It's like, hey, work for us, Hedo. It's like, yeah. Of course, Hedo recognizes them right away from his like little Hachimaru guy, his little wasp dude. And Hedo goes on about liking superheroes and stuff. So here it's more like they kind of downplay stuff. Now, part of the reason I think why they're doing that is because they just had in this version at least they just had a scene explaining what Magenta is probably trying to do from Krillin's perspective. So and in this scene that's a bit different, Krillin is catching them or trying to catch them, and they have to like fend him off. So that's one thing that's different. Hedo notices Krillin. He sends Hachimaru to fend off Krillin while he talks to Magenta and stuff. And Magenta alludes to wanting to take down Goku. So it's a little more subtle, I guess. Whereas in the movie, it seemed like he was trying to make them out more like bad guys. Krillin shoots down Hachimaru, which flies down in front of the windshield and makes Carmine drive crazy, while Hedo explains that he doesn't really care about Magenta's world domination thing. He just wants to make the greatest androids ever. So Hedo then asks who they're up against, and Magenta explains about, the Goku and Gohan thing, how they beat up Cell and Bulma's Capsule Corporation. Hedo blames Trunks for his time in prison, so he already doesn't really like Trunks to begin with. And then, Magenta talks about, Majin Buu and King Piccolo and all that, like in the movie. But Krillin, he tries to call his police pal so let them know what's going on, but Hedo can apparently still hear them. And he has Hachimaru charge at Krillin and knocks him off the car because he's on top of the car and stuff, and they escape and stuff. And then we go to, Pan and Piccolo, sparring. And they do some, like, little stuff. He tries to do, like, a cool flying back kick, or she tries to do a cool flying back kick, but he deflects it and she goes flying into a rock, and he checks on her and gives her a water bottle. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Piccolo says that Pan might have a better knack for fighting than Gohan, and she says that she wants to learn to do cool blasts, like specifically the Kikoho or the Tri-Beam. She legit mentions that. But Piccolo tells her that she needs to master the basics first, and she can't even fly. So she tries to fly, but she kind of messes it up, and Piccolo's like, oh, it's no big deal. Which I don't remember if I ever noted this in the movie review, but it's kind of interesting seeing how Piccolo's being a bit more easy on Pan than he was with Gohan when he trained him. Of course, just one, Pan is significantly younger than I think she's like 4, so maybe about the same age. But I don't know. Piccolo's changed, and some slight setup, but like Pan, she knows that she heard that Gohan might actually be stronger than Goku, which Piccolo agrees, and he says that he could be stronger, just not right now. And Pan says that she's never really seen Gohan fight, and Piccolo says there's not really a need to, but he will if it comes to it. Pan goes home, and then the next morning, Piccolo gets a call on his cell phone, because again, he has a cell phone and a bunch of stuffed animals, and a house, by the way. I don't know. I kind of liked him. For the sake of the story, it kind of makes more sense that he would have a house and a cell phone. But Videl calls him, like in the movie, asking if Piccolo to pick up Pan from school because she has a tournament in a martial arts class that she teaches. And Piccolo's like, well, why can't Gohan do it? And then, she's like, well, Gohan's busy studying. I made a joke saying that he's in his room playing League of Legends. I mean, working on a research report. And then Videl offers to give him a cute plushie, and hangs up after he agrees. And then Piccolo goes to check on Gohan and be like, why am I having to pick up your daughter, bro? He's like, I'm doing this thing about, Super Saiyans, blah, 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 blah. And Piccolo gets mad at him for, being all like, you need to train more. Gohan's like, we got Goku and we got Goku Dad. I don't know why I said Goku Dad. We got Dad and Vegeta. And one scene that's a little bit different, they show Piccolo try to strike Gohan, but he deflects it He's like, I'm not rusty at all, bruh. But then Piccolo's like, oh, and just like punches God's like, you still been slacking. He turns closer to the Piccolo thing, like in the movie. And then Piccolo flies off, and Gohan is all, him grumpy, him angry. And then Piccolo goes back to meditate, to wait for the time to pick up Pan. But then a little thing flashes and tries to hit Piccolo, and it's Gamma 2. Yeah, so basically the movie. So Gamma 2 and Piccolo, they fight and stuff. You know, the whole, why am I seeing his sound effects? It's like, are you King Piccolo? I was like, no, I'm just normal Piccolo. It's a long story, but who are you? I can't tell you nothing, bruh. So, but he notices the red ribbon, badge on his shoulder. He's like, I know you're a red ribbon. He's like, Gamma's like, yeah, I've been found out. And he tries to kind of probe Piccolo for information about, the whole King Piccolo thing. And then Piccolo's like, no, I'm not going to tell you nothing. You should, do your homework next time. And he knows that he can't sense Gamma 2's energy, so he thinks he's an android, and has to create him. Gamma 2 is surprised Piccolo knows so much, but refuses to say more. And he says he has orders to defeat Piccolo, although it might have just been like a trial run sort of thing. So they fight and stuff, and Piccolo starts to get the upper hand on Gamma 2, but then he kicks him flying, and then... Or he kicks Gamma 2 flying, and then Gamma 2 strikes back, gets a few good hits in. Piccolo notes, though, that he hasn't taken any damage, and so he's probably an android. And then Gamma 2 kind of taunts him. Piccolo takes off his cape and hat, and they fight more. They kind of go a little toe-to-toe, but Gamma 2 kind of is the one who sort of gets the upper hand and stuff. He fires a big blast at Piccolo with his little, blaster thing. And he thinks that Piccolo is dead, so he flies up, but Piccolo is still alive. And in fact, he's far above. It's literally like the movie. I don't think they do the whole why can't I see sound effects, thing. Yeah, so it's basically like the movie where now Piccolo's gonna follow Gamma 2, and he goes through a teleport door, and Piccolo knocks out a red ribbon soldier and steals his uniform to be in disguise and go after Gamma 2. And so another soldier seems like, are you supposed to be here? And then Piccolo's like, yeah, I was asked to guard this space. And another soldier questions him about it. He's like, I just wanted to guard this area. And the soldier's like, yeah, you should do it to gain experience, so they let him stay. And then he goes inside to see Gamma 2 along with Gamma 1 and Dr. Hedo, and that whole scene where it's the soldiers there and they're all talking about stuff. It pretty much plays exactly how the movie goes. Carmine pulls up images of Goku, Vegeta, Majin Buu, and Mr. Satan and all of them, and talk about how they're evil and stuff. And they would thing where it's Mr. Satan's true strength eludes us, which is kind of funny. And Gamma 2 notes that Goku's hair looks funny in particular, so. But Hedo assures that the game was going to handle it well, especially since Piccolo was easily defeated. And Magenta asks about Cell Max, so Piccolo's getting all the same information and stuff. But Piccolo gets a little worried about this, and he runs off to call Bulma on his phone, and he asks Bulma where Vegeta is, and Bulma says he's training with Beerus. Piccolo also asks if Goku's with him, and Bulma says he is. And then Piccolo asks about the device Bulma can use to contact Whis with, and she should tell Goku and Vegeta to come back right now. Bulma asks why, and Piccolo says there isn't much he can say, but there might be a big crisis going around. So Bulma says she will reach it out, and thanks Piccolo. And he flies off to go get senzu beans. He goes to Korin. This is one thing that's a little different. He goes to Korin and that's what senzu beans, but he only has 2 left, which Piccolo takes. Korin tells Piccolo to be careful, but addresses him as Kami for some reason. I don't know why. He's like, I'm not Kami anymore. And then Bulma calls Piccolo back, and she says she can't find the device to contact Whis, which makes Piccolo kind of, freak out a bit. And Bulma says she'll keep looking. But Piccolo explains that he thinks that the Gammas are as strong as Goku and Vegeta, which I'm pretty sure that's new. They didn't mention that. Korin asks about Gohan, and Piccolo says he's a little, busy at the moment, a little useless at the moment. My notes say he's of little use. That's what I meant to say. It says he's of little Sue at the moment. I probably should have proofread my notes before I started recording, but they're pretty thorough too. But he also thinks that they might have information on the weaknesses of 17 and 18, and Majin Buu is taking a big ass nap. So basically, Krillin is Krillin will be later on, but Piccolo's the only one left who can actually handle this problem. He then gets the idea to see if Dende can help. Bulma finds the device and tries to call Whis, but it gets knocked away while a big fight is going on. Then we move on to Goku and Broly and Vegeta. So Broly has now been officially shown in the manga canon now, so he's there. So it's them sparring and stuff. And Goku says that Broly's kind of getting the hang of like controlling his anger. They give like a brief summary of the Broly movie, talking about Paragus and Gogeta and all that. And then we get to the scene that kind of triggered me and a few other people, where they show Vegeta meditating and Goku doing that like hands on his hips, like we need to be. Here it's actually about different. He has his hand crossed and he's like, you're meditating? That's not really like you. Like, and that was much better. That was a much better way to handle the scene. Because I don't know, like this whole sort of like what do you call it? Breaking down of Goku and de-dumbing of and like redumbing of Goku that seems to be going on, I don't think is really best option. Admittedly, I am kind of noticing it more, and I wouldn't say I was a super defender, but like I tolerated it. To a point to where when I was watching the English dub of the Buu arc of Kai, Goku seemed a bit different to me because he almost seemed a little too coherent. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like Goku to me. Now, granted, since I first discovered Dragon Ball watching the original Dragon Ball, I always saw Goku as being a dummy. But I always assumed that, okay, well, he grew up and, he became more mature and stuff, which is definitely true. But yeah, they handled this scene a lot better in this version. But yeah, Vegeta is basically saying, like, he's using his meditation because, he was shown to be inferior to all their latest foes. And he's been questioning what he lacks. But he's trying to sort of like try something different. Goku thinks he should train his body more, and Vegeta argues that their bodies are at their limits and they've been miswielding their power and wasting too much energy, and they need to learn to relax themselves when not in combat. So Vegeta's actually trying to kind of change a little bit himself. Vegeta then says that to be able to attack in a relaxed state would also make reading their movements more difficult, which makes sense because then like they're kind of letting their bodies naturally move and they're not really thinking that much. So he's actually taking Whis' advice to heart here, which is Whis, speaking of which, he comes in and congratulates Vegeta on discovering this on his own. Echoes that simply training your body is not enough, targeting Goku, being all like, bro, you need to fix your shiz. Goku's all like, it's easier said than done. And then Whis replies that his eureka moment will come, which, that'll be interesting to see when that comes in. And then we suggest that the three of them, Goku, Vegeta, and Broly, fight to test out this little theory. But both Goku and Vegeta say that Broly doesn't have enough control to control his rage, so they agree to just have the Goku and Vegeta fight. So they're kind of working with what they have in the manga while also doing the movie. So like that fight, how they do things. And Broly just kind of sits back and watch. Beerus wakes up and asks how long he's been napping for. We says about 4 months, and Beerus complains that it wasn't a long nap, but then notices Broly is here. He asks why Broly's here, and Goku says it's to protect him from Frieza. So they're trying to do that. Beerus starts to fuss, but he smells cooking from Limo. So both Limo and Chilai are both here, and his whole little crush thing going on. Right as they're getting ready to sort of like do like some serious fight, Goku's all like, I'm hungry, so they eat more. But we go back to Piccolo meeting Dende at the lookout, and Dende says he's been watching everything, so he knows what's going on. Piccolo asks about Guru's ability to draw out a warrior's latent potential like he did for Gohan and Krillin, and Dende remembers that, and Piccolo asks Dende to do it, but Dende says he can't do it until he gets older, to which he then suggests that they ask the Dragon Balls to do it, like in the movie. So they use the Dragon Balls so that he can get his potential unleashed and stuff. And so he calls Bulma. She also says that, she's trying to call the gang, or Goku and Vegeta, on Whis' communicator, but he's not picking up, probably because they're eating ice cream and all that shit. Yeah, so then they show us Goku and Vegeta fighting again after they eat. And they're showing Goku fighting more offensively while Vegeta's kind of blocking and stuff. So they're kind of leaning into Vegeta kind of having a different sort of mindset with fighting for a little bit. Makes me kind of wonder, because I thought Toriyama actually wrote the script for a superhero. So I don't know. Maybe Toyotaro got like a preliminary version or something. Kind of hard to say, but yeah, we get like a little scene of Beerus kind of flirting with Chilai a little bit, and showing Limo cleaning up, and they have their ice cream and stuff like in the movie. And then we get to Piccolo summoning Shinron at Bulma's place, and he recognizes Piccolo and calls him Master Piccolo. And Piccolo asks for the power boost, and he agrees, and he says he gave him a little bit extra. Piccolo is about to say, okay, well, that's all I need. But Bulma chimes in, being like, hey, can I have like a butt lift? And so she gets a butt lift, and she ends up using both the wishes for that, and like he leaves. Then Piccolo chastises her for making a trivial wish, and then Bulma uses the one wish to make her butt bigger, and then uses the other wish to make her eyelashes longer. And then he goes, but then she realized that they could have used the wishes to bring back Goku and Vegeta. Which that would have been cool, actually. Of course, I just like seeing Goku and Vegeta tackle bad guys, at this point. It's just kind of fun. Like, someone was doing like a dub of that comic of Goku fighting Sonic, speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog. And, I just like watching Goku, punch people and stuff. And Piccolo chastises her, but she, is like, well, he didn't think of it either. And so then Piccolo heads back to the Red Room base, and Trunks had noticed this, and he calls Goten, telling him to come over because he thinks something big is happening. But Goten says that, his mom grounded him and that he's only allowed to go to school. And then Trunks says, well, lie and say that it's a study thing and that he'll make it work. Or Goten says he'll make it work. And then Trunks says to also bring the transformation watch. So we're going to get a little more Saiyaman X1 and X2 action. So yeah, Piccolo makes it back. He said he was having stomach problems when the guy asked him, the commander's like, where were you? And then, of course, the other thing is like, are you okay? You're looking a bit green. And Piccolo says, I'm fine. They talk about what they're going to do next. And they suggest that Gohan should be their next task. Because, he's Goku's son. That might be, he was strong enough to kill Cell. And Magenta suggests kidnapping Pan to lure Gohan into coming out. And Piccolo says he wants to come too because he happens to live near Gohan, so he knows what his daughter looks like. And this scene, that they kind of sort of, there's a little bit more of a rebuttal from what I recall. Whereas I feel like in the movie, like, they pretty much allow Piccolo to come on the mission, but like, yeah, Magenta agrees to let Piccolo go, and then Piccolo's thinking to himself, this might actually be a good idea to get Gohan out of his slump. So like they go, and they go to the school, and Pan's waiting there to be picked up, and Piccolo and the soldier just sneak around to find her. The soldier walks up to Pan first and says, your mom sent me to pick you up. I'm your favorite uncle. And then, of course, Pan's like, stranger danger, and like punches him. But then Piccolo comes like, oh, hi, Piccolo. Because she can sense his energy. Piccolo, says it was for a training exercise, and that she needs to go with him, so he does, or she does. And the cop tries to, give them a ticket for parking the ship in a bad spot, but the cop recognizes Pan as Mr. Satan's daughter, or granddaughter, so they let them slide. And Piccolo, tells her to wear the cosmos, but she can break out anytime she wants. And of course, Piccolo is not very good at flying the plane, but he's trying. He also has explained the situation to Pan, and Pan thinks it might be fun. But Piccolo tells her to kind of like, play along and not make too much light of it. Pan isn't sure if Gohan will come because he's been busy, but Piccolo says he will because he'll pee all over Gohan's shiz. And my notes I say he'll wreck Gohan's shiz. The soldier guy then wakes up after being knocked down, and Pan pretends to be scared. And they do the thing where they toss her into the chair and record the video, be like, "I'm scared, Daddy." After they're done, Pan tries to get up and get a cookie, but Carmine's like, "No, you don't get cookies." And the commander dude tells Piccolo to go with him to blackmail Gohan, and he agrees. And when they get to, Piccolo's all like, "Hey, don't ring the doorbell. Just go to the window." And so they go there. Piccolo taps on the window, and Gohan opens it, but he doesn't recognize Piccolo. So he gets a little annoyed. And the soldier dude tries to threaten him with like his gun, and Gohan's like, it's deflating. He's like, "Hey, if you guys don't leave, I'm going to call the police." But then the soldier shows the video of Pan, and Gohan gets real angry and goes Super Saiyan. But then the soldier guy gets scared. He's like, "We haven't done anything yet. We just want you to go with." And he's like, "Fring." But so he goes with them. And then they get back to the base, and it's raining. And Gohan flies down. He confronts the bad guys. Gamma 1 tries to kind of walk towards him and get things started. But Gohan just tries to fly straight towards Pan once he sees her. But Gamma 1 gets in the way, and he's all like, "I'm gonna fight Gohan now, so stay out of this, Gamma 2." And Gamma 2's all like, "Aight." And then they start fighting and stuff. And they start to kind of be a bit equal, but Gamma 1 seems to have a bit of a upper hand on him, and Pan is wondering if Gohan will be able to win. Piccolo doesn't think he will, but he might be able to if he gets sort of his fighting sense back. And of course, they're kind of talking about stuff. And Gamma 1 says he's a superhero, and Gohan's able to kind of put together that he's an android and stuff. And he's asking why they resorted to kidnapping. Gamma 1 says it wasn't really his idea, and he's just following orders in the name of justice. And Gohan questions, like, their whole thing of justice. And, Gamma 1 says they're trying to eliminate, all these guys. He calls them a cabal. So Gohan goes Super Saiyan, he does a Kamehameha and all that stuff. And they're basically like fighting and talking. And Piccolo isn't really too keen on the situation because, based on his experience fighting Gamma 1, or Gamma 2 rather, they learn as they fight. Gamma 1 is getting the upper hand, and so Piccolo decides to try to like entice Gohan by like, holding up Pan like she's getting hurt. So he holds her up and tells her to act like she's hurt, and of course she's crying out, and Gohan notices, and he gets real mad, and he goes like, his mystic form or ultimate or power unleashed or whatever you call it. While Gamma 2 tells Piccolo to lay off the kid and not like hurt her. And of course the police, they're watching from afar. Krillin, Marin, and 18, they just got out of a movie theater, which Marin liked, but 18 didn't like the movie. So Marin notices that it stopped raining, and Krillin senses Gohan's energy. And then the police captain calls, Krillin on his watch, telling him that they just found the Red Ribbon Base and that it's near a lake. And that's also where Krillin is sensing Gohan's energy. So Krillin, he's going to go scout out and ask the captain to like evacuate the civilians, and she agrees to. And 18 stops Krillin, questioning him about where he's going. They say because they had restaurant plans, and Krillin says it's a sudden work thing. And 18 asks about the woman he was talking to, and Krillin tries to explain that it's his boss, but 18 is not too pleased. It's like, "Well, I'm going along with you." Like, dang. She thinks that Krillin be cheating, which I don't think he would. And then he says that she might be in handy. They're fighting and stuff. Now Gohan is starting to get the upper hand against Gamma 1, and he's trying to kind of talk to Gamma 1 and trying to get him to see reason. And of course, they're starting to see a little bit. And then we get to the Gamma 2 and Lime Green Piccolo fight. Of course, in the manga, it's a little harder to tell. I think they show like the different color scheme and like the arm ridges sort of turning away or whatever, because but Piccolo's able to sort of do a little bit better this time, and Gamma 2's like, "How'd you get so much strong this fast?" And Piccolo's like, "I bet you're just dying to know." Meanwhile, Gamma 1 is saying that he's Gohan's new strength may not matter too much because the Gammas can fight for as long as they have energy, and right now he's at 82%, so basically saying he has more stamina. So I guess they're similar to of course, the androids at 17 and 18, I think, had unlimited energy, right? So it's just more of a matter of overpowering them, where I guess that's kind of the same thing here, but I guess there's a little more wiggle room. I don't really know. But yeah, Gamma 2, he gets a good hit on Piccolo and knocks him down, and, Gohan ends up saving him, and they have to kind of regroup. This is one of the small changes. Piccolo says that they can't drag the fight out much longer, they need to finish it in one go. Both of them charge at their respective opponent, and Gohan does a big punch while Piccolo does a big kick. So they start off kind of separately, but then they end up kind of fighting together, the four of them. And they start to kind of do like a little bit of an upper hand on the good guys, and Piccolo is about to do like his special mechanic. He's like, it's a bit of a shame. And Gamma 2 is like, what? And then, he's like, well, I don't think you guys are really that bad. You're just idiots, which makes Gamma 2 hesitate. And he says that, Hedo's orders are never wrong. And Piccolo is saying that Hedo may be the one giving the orders, but he was given bad information from Magenta, which, like, shocks Gamma 2, who then flies up and looks at Hedo and Magenta, who asks if he's okay and hurry up, respectively. Gamma 2 groans and Piccolo recognizes that he's seeing the bigger picture, which Gamma 2 is in denial and kicks Piccolo real good and throws him around as well. Then Hammer slams him, another one of Vegeta's techniques if you ask me, into a big hole from before. Or the big hole from before. And this is where we get Orange Piccolo, because then he's like, I think it's over. But then, like, he remembers that Shenron gave him, like, that little extra, and then, Orange Piccolo came around. And he rises from, the ashes, or whatever, the hole, and everyone's looking at him. Meanwhile, at Capsule Corporation, Bulma and Trunks are talking, and she's trying to kind of make sense of the situation and asks about the new androids and if Dr. Hedo made them. And she asks Trunks about the whole thing, and Goten shows up as well, and he's like, I'm just here to study, but he's like, the situation is bad enough to where I'll lift y'all's ban. You're grounding for a while. So the three of them go on a ship, and then Magenta decides, hey, we need to maybe unleash Cell Max because Orange Piccolo is basically beating up Gamma 2, and of course Bulma had called basically the good guys that are available are showing up, at this point. But then we get to that whole thing where Magenta decides, hey, it's time to, unleash Cell Max. So he runs off with Carmine. Then Piccolo gives Pan the okay to break off the cuffs. And Dr. Hedo's like, no, it's not ready. And there's that whole scene where, like, he tries to shoot him or stop him. But then, like, Magenta's all like, I made modifications to my body. I've got, like, metal skin. And, like, Hachimaru Sting is like, well, as long as you've got regular skin, I can sting you to make you crazy. But even though he does that, he presses the button, and Cell Max comes out. So everyone else, they meet up in time, and they think that things are kind of over, and the Gammas have kind of stopped. But suddenly Cell Max then shows up. I mean, before that, they're talking about Orange Piccolo getting his name, because he apparently didn't even realize he had turned orange. But yeah, so everyone's kind of powers up and stuff, and Goten and Trunks turn on their Saiyaman X1 and 2 outfits on, so they're all trying to fight Cell Max, but he's just kind of swatting them away and stuff, and they're trying to, like, do damage and stuff. They try to take advantage of the fact that because he just woke up, he's not really used to moving around and stuff, and they all try to, beat them up, or beat up Cell Max. It's not really doing much. They do, like, these, like, little flurries, and it still doesn't do anything. And then Gohan and Piccolo start to think that maybe he's starting to get used to... That seems to be a running theme with all these characters. They're all getting used to fighting and doing damage and stuff. And that's a little tricky. But Gamma 1 determines that his little jewel thing on his head is his weak point, so everyone starts to aim for that, and they're maybe starting to crack it a little bit, but it still doesn't, like, do anything with it. Gamma 1 tells 2 that he will distract Cell Max and that they should hit Cell Max with everything he has. He agrees and they get started. Gamma 2 charges a big blast, and when Cell Max is distracted, he fires it along with everyone else firing their big blasts, and it doesn't really kill him, though. He does, like, a little laser thingy. And, Pan almost gets hurt, but Krillin rescues her. And then Gamma 2 gets this big idea to where they can maybe do something, and Gamma 1 knows what he's doing, and he says he doesn't want to, and suggests that he should at least join in, but Gamma 2 says he can't because he needs to save Dr. Hedo because he's still alive. And then Gamma 1 checks, like, yep, he is. So they do the whole thing where Gamma 2 just flies up and stuff, and Goten and Trunks try to fuse to be fat Gotenks, but they're all getting spiked around. It's smacked around and whatnot. And then Gamma 2 has everyone firing energy blasts and stuff. And then he charges back down and does, like, his big thing. And everyone kind of tries to get away and stuff. Cell Max unfortunately notices it last minute, so he tries to guard against it. and it still does damage to him, but all it really does is just break his arm off, but he's still like alive and stuff. And now Gamma 2 is, out of commission. Because he burned all his energy to do this. So Gohan and Krillin and Gotenks are like peppering Cell Max with energy blast, but he's about to step on Gamma 2 or what's left of him and Dr. Hedo. But Krillin and Piccolo go under Cell Max's foot to like kind of hold him up. And then Krillin is all like, hey, why don't you turn big? He's like, oh yeah, I forgot I can do it. So he goes big. Gohan's thinking, oh, well, now you can beat him now that you're big and also orange. But he's like, well, it's mainly a bluff. And he reaches into his senzu bean and gives it to Gohan. He tells Gohan, like, you've got the potential to like really do some major shiz. So what I need you to do is power up to the max. I will hold them off. Everyone pepper them, and we will go from there. And he tries to eat it, but this is sort of like a nonsense scene, quite honestly, because they do that thing where he tries to eat the bean, but the guy gets knocked out, then he grabs it. It's maybe about like half the chapter. Gohan kind of rejoins the fight and he powers up and stuff. They do that whole thing where Piccolo tells him to charge up his energy and lands nearby to do so, and of course Piccolo takes his shirt off and goes to fight. And Gohan's kind of struggling to power up, but like Piccolo's kind of getting banged up, and everyone's getting mad, and so they charge at Cell Max, but then they get all banged up. And Gamma 1's trying to help as well, but he gets smacked by Cell Max, particularly by his tail. And Gohan starts to get kind of worried about everything, but Piccolo gets up for another round, and they're fighting and stuff, but it gets even worse, and Piccolo is getting all banged up, and Gohan starts to get kind of even more freaked out. One little change in this scene, instead of like him holding up Piccolo like he did before, is this is something that the reader sees, but that Gohan doesn't actually see it. But Cell Max, he does like a death ball thing and throws it at like the descending Piccolo to like kind of kill him. But Gamma 1 apparently like charges up and flies up, assuming to save him, which he very clearly does. But Gohan doesn't see this, so he like freaks out. Then he goes into his beast mode, which I heard some people saying that they liked Beast Gohan more in the manga than in the movie. I'm not really sure what the difference is. My only real issue with the form itself is the white hair, because I feel like Ultra Instinct is kind of associated with white hair. I know it's more like silver, and that's sort of how they're kind of getting away with it, I think. So I guess that's maybe the thing. Ultra Instinct is the silver hair, and then maybe Beast form is the white hair. I kind of like the idea of it being sort of like a light lavender. I guess it kind of conflicts with Ultra Ego a little bit at that point, but then aren't they kind of similar anyway? We get to the cool part of Beast Gohan beating the crap out of Cell Max, and he actually notices Gamma 1 and Piccolo falling down the ground, and Gohan 1 is trying to get Piccolo to wake up, so he now knows that Piccolo is safe. But he gets up and does like his little extend arm to hold Cell Max in place while he's like, Gohan, finish it. And of course Gohan, charges up his special beam cannon that he ends up doing with the cool pose and everything. And they fired at Cell Max. He tries to deflect it, but Goten tries to kick his hand away, and then the beam pierces through his head. And it's in color too, actually. At least the first 3 panels are. And they defeat him. His stomach expands, and Gamma 1 warns them that he's going to explode, and they all try to fly away, and then the dust clears after the explosion. 18 is shown pulling Krillin out of a hole, and Dr. Hedo tries to revive Gamma 2, but it don't work. Gamma 2 disintegrates, I believe. I think it's like in the movie at that point. And then Pan comes out of Bulma's ship and looks around. She sees Beast Gohan, Orange Piccolo, and she gets creeped out, so they revert back to their normal forms. Like, oh, hey, you're regular now. Piccolo tells Gamma 1 that they couldn't have won without, his help, and that they were basically like, real superheroes. And Dr. Hedo feels bad for everything, and he offers to turn himself in. But Krillin and Piccolo, think it may be a good idea to cut them some slack, just because, they weren't great people, but they weren't exactly bad people either. Although Android 18 is a little annoyed that he's giving the androids a bad name. He asks the Castle Corporation to be willing to hire him and Gamma 1, which 18 tries to say no, but Bulma agrees. Mainly to hoping that Hedo can make her skin look younger. And of course, Gamma 1 can be a good bodyguard. It'd be kind of cool to see him with a Capsule Corporation logo on his outfit, which I imagine they'll probably do that. Probably like a sticker or something. Probably like what they did with 16. Give him a little sticker to fix him. Or sticker when they fixed him. They hire Hedo and Gamma. And then Pan tries to get Piccolo's attention and she starts flying. He's like, I can fly now. Gohan warns Pan not to fly so high. And that's more or less that. But then we move on back to the Red Ribbon base. Carmine and some soldiers are shown having survived, and they plan to return to the Red Ribbon Pharmacy. Then we go back to the Beerus planet with Goku and Vegeta. They're both just worn out, having sparred hardcore. And they both get good punches in, and they're maintaining their balance. And they're wondering how the other is still standing. And they try to do one last punch, but Goku misses. And Vegeta does a little tap, so like calls Goku to fall on his back. He's like, yes, I win! Which, of course, Vegeta falls back as well as, like, it's like the movie. But Whis then also declares Vegeta the winner. And, of course, Broly and Limo crying. Because, the intensity of man. And then, of course, Beerus is falling asleep. Whis tries to clean up the ice cream, but he sees the Wands ring, so he checks back in, and Bulma's like, oh, it's all good. It's like, I wonder what was going on. It's like the movie, goes. But then we get to sort of like another sort of new scene, and this is kind of where things start to kind of wrap up. It basically shows Carmine and how he wants to kind of rebuild and get revenge on Gohan and Piccolo and all that. And they're in the car, but they get stopped in traffic because, Goten and Trunks are beating up bad guys as Saiyaman X1 and 2. And Carmine is intrigued by this and walks to them and wants to talk with them over pizza. And says he wants them to beat up a bad guy. And he offers them money, but Trunks is like, I don't want money. And Goten thinks the mission's not very heroic, but Carmine baits them by being like, are you guys afraid of bad guys? Like, no, we're not afraid of bad guys, so they go with them and stuff. And Trunks is also thinking he can maybe impress Mai. And goes like, well, let's film it. And then, of course, he's like, good thing we already have a camera. Of course, one of the Red Room people has a camera, and Goten is also posing for some schoolgirls wanting to take his picture. So they agree to get in the car. And they drive off with Carmine and the Red Ribbon people. We go back to Beerus' planet, and it shows Vegeta and Broly sparring, and Vegeta's trying to kind of teach Broly a lesson on controlling his rage and sort of maintaining Super Saiyan in a healthy way and stuff. And Goku kind of chimes in with some stuff as well. And Whis comes up and tells him basically what he learned from Bulma, with how Gohan defeated Cell Max and all that stuff. And Beerus somehow forgot that Goku had children. But after hearing all this, Vegeta then notes that Gohan might have actually surpassed Goku at this point. And Goku's like, oh man, I wish I was there. So then we go back to Goten and Trunks, and they're on the way to an area near Gohan's house. And they get to Gohan's house, and they get Gohan's attention. At first he doesn't recognize them, but after he adjusts his glasses, because apparently his vision has gone bad enough to where only when he's Super Saiyan he doesn't need his glasses. But he recognizes Carmine, and he gets pissed and immediately goes beast form. Goku senses that while he's eating, and then he decides he's going to go. So Gohan's about to attack Carmine, but then he notices Goten and Trunks and wonders why they're there. And then Goku just shows up out of nowhere being like, sup? So Goku is impressed with Gohan's new energy, and he wants to show Gohan to Beerus and all that. So he tries to invite Gohan to go with him to Beerus' planet. And he's like, but I'm in my clothes. And it's like, we'll go change. And then he notices Goten and Trunks and stuff. Like, we're just chilling. It's like, yeah, well, you guys should come too. And the Red Ribbon people, they also come. So they all go to Beerus' planet. They get to Beerus' planet, and then Goku starts asking Gohan about his new form, and if it's like Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan 2 or 3 or whatever. And Gohan says that it's called Beast, and that Piccolo helped him name it, and that he kind of understands sort of what Piccolo was saying about, being ready to fight at a moment's notice. And they talk about Piccolo a little bit too, and Goku's like, I should fight you guys, hardcore. And he wants to fight Gohan. Vegeta suggests that to sort of test themselves, Gohan should fight Goten and Trunks. So he does. And then there's a little scene here where he goes, ultimate form, and they're all like, "That's your ultimate form." And then Gohan's like, "What? I didn't know it was called that." Which is kind of funny how like, that's the form doesn't even really have a name, and for the longest time we thought that was just Gohan's new base form. It wasn't until later on that we recognized, oh, it's a transformation, or at least now they're treating it like a transformation, which I think they probably should, because then it just makes it easier to. And I think it works best when Gohan's regular hair doesn't look like that. And of course with GT, I think they made it seem like he was in his ultimate form. Or no, he went Super Saiyan too. Yeah, he went Super Saiyan. Yeah, so they fight, and Gohan defeats them. Because they even try to fuse his Gotenks, but they do the fat Gotenks. For some reason, they don't really like us seeing adult Gotenks. But anyway, yeah, Gohan goes beast pretty quickly by just like sort of like tensing up and powering up, and then like he beats them. And then we get to Goku and Gohan fighting. And they seem to kind of be somewhat equal. Goku seems to have a little bit of an edge, and he ends up going Master Ultra Instinct, so we get to see them both fighting each other. Knowing what we know now about things, this almost kind of seems sort of like a last hurrah between the two strongest characters in a way. But then they have Broly kind of join in the fight. After Goku and Gohan were kind of duking it out, and Goku kind of he stops the fight and he says, "I just want to kind of test your power. I wasn't even really trying to like actually like fight." But even Vegeta's knowing like, yeah, you're really fast and stuff. Goku asks Gohan if he still has energy to fight, and he says yes. And then we have Broly fighting Gohan, which is kind of fun. And he starts to get kind of enraged a little bit, but then he actually gets control over Super Saiyan form. So it's kind of like the second Broly movie, where he goes like regular Super Saiyan, where it kind of looks like his like transformed state, with like the blue hair that he would get. Like I think they call it restrained Super Saiyan, but here it's like regular Super Saiyan, and that's always cool. So he kind of goes into sort of what looks like that form. I guess he's sort of like Kale in that regard, based on kind of where we're at. But then Vegeta gets jealous, and then he wants to start fighting Gohan. And then Goten and Trunks, they agree to fight Broly and Gohan instead. Then Goku's all like, well, I want to fight Gohan too. And so they all basically start fighting. Whis is surprised, and Beerus calls the whole thing a mess. And then sometime later, everyone's worn out from the fighting, and Limo gives them all a big feast. And then they take Gohan home. Goku notices Carmine and asks who they are, and Gohan says they're the Red Ribbon Army. Vegeta asks why they're here, and Gohan says that he bet they're trying to plan something evil. And they panic and they say they're here to apologize for everything, but no one believes them. Goku suggests that while they drop everyone off, that he and Vegeta come home too for a bit, and Vegeta agrees. They say bye to Beerus and Whis, and that they will be back in like a later time. At least Goku and Vegeta will. And Beerus replies disappointed, being all, "Must you come back? You smell." But they use the instant transmission and to lock into Piccolo's energy, and they teleport to him on Earth. And then the Red Ribbon people, they escape as soon as they can, not because they're scared of Piccolo beating them up, but also what they just saw. But Piccolo catches Goku staring at him and asks about it, and Goku can tell that Piccolo is much more powerful now and has to see his new power, but Piccolo says he can't because he has to pick Pan up from school. And for whatever reason, Goku has forgotten who Pan is, and Vegeta gives him shit for forgetting his own grandchild. So he's like, well, I'm going to make you go with them. And so Goku goes with them to pick up Pan. And meanwhile, the Red Room people are driving off, and Carmen says he's giving up on the whole world domination thing, and he's going towards pharmaceutical things. And the henchmen guys agree. So that's kind of a nice little resolution for them, that they're actually legit giving up. Because now they realize just what they're up against. But Piccolo, Gohan, and Goku go to pick up Pan from school, and she goes to hug Gohan, but then notices Goku. She points at him, and Gohan tells her something, and Goku notices her, and he waves. But then she teleports behind Goku and tries to do like a little kick, but he blocks against it. And he smiles, and she smiles back, and then they leave the school, and they fly off. And this is kind of a nice little touch. I don't know if this is present in the Japanese posting of this chapter either, but the English translation team, they leave a small note offering the mourning and the condolences over Toriyama's passing. And that's more or less where we're at with this story. This chapter was published. Toriyama passed March 1st of 2024. We got the news March 7th, 2024, and then the chapter came out March 20th, 2024. Apparently, Toriyama's last edit in the original draft, when they were flying off, Toyotaro didn't have Piccolo looking. Like, they had them just like flying off, but then Toriyama added a change to where he wanted Piccolo to be looking back and waving before they fly off. And that's kind of profound when you think about it, because it's kind of common knowledge that Piccolo is Toriyama's favorite character, which also made this whole superhero arc really cool, because then we got to see Piccolo get like some stuff. So that's one thing I actually do like about this arc, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Gohan in general. I have been pretty vocal, or honest rather, that I like Majin Buu era Gohan onward. Like, I like him as an adult. I mean, now I'm kind of okay with Gohan, but it's just I'm more just indifferent to him. But yeah, I like him as an adult, and even then, like, I think it was really cool that he got Beast form. And you know, I've seen there's been that video that someone uploaded of Gohan going Beast, but they throw in the Bruce Falconer Gohan's Rage song, and I'm thinking like, oh, that's perfect. And apparently they even like threw in like a Stephanie Nadonli Gohan Scream, and like layered it over Kyle Aber's modern Gohan Scream, which is, it's also cool because Stephanie's back as Goku and Daima, so that's awesome. But yeah, reading this last chapter after knowing that Toriyama had a pass, which apparently Toyotaro didn't even know until after the chapter had been like finalized and everything, and it was like printing or whatever. I say printing, but you know what I mean. This was a very somber chapter. It definitely kind of felt like the story was kind of closing down. More closing down for good, even though, like, yeah, they've said that they've kind of all but said that it's not over yet, and people have talked about this and rumors and stuff. I talked about this on my podcast when we were kind of remembering Toriyama's legacy and all that. I'm of the opinion, again, this is my opinion. I'm going to say two things, and both of these things are my opinion based on just what I've observed and what I've learned from this situation. I think that, one, Toriyama, and Geekdom 101 has talked about this as well, and I think he mentioned this as well, and that's kind of where I got that same impression. I think Toriyama probably knew that he didn't have much time left. I also think, because there were reports on Twitter or something that, like, he was apparently, because he died of what was basically like a brain tumor kind of thing, and one of the publishers or producers said that he had gone to the doctor for surgery, but he didn't know, or he was planning on it, but he didn't know, like, if he went through with it. I suspect one of two things: either he went through with it and it didn't really heal properly or whatever, or he said no, which, given the dangers of that and kind of what that sort of surgery can do to your mind, I can understand why he wouldn't want to do it. That's just my opinion. I'm going to say a third thing that I don't recall if I said this in the podcast or not. So sorry if that's a bit of a repeat for those who have listened to both this and that. But I suspect that it was sort of a hidden understanding that Toriyama was not long of this world, because I'm thinking about it. I remember Ryo Horikawa posted on Twitter that he met with Shueisha or somebody. It was either Toei or Shueisha to discuss the future of Dragon Ball. So I suspect he knew. And I remember Death Battle did another Goku versus Superman, which seemed kind of random after doing two, and it was probably one of the best ones. It was one of the most respectful videos I've ever seen of them. I'm actually, if they're not listening to this, but if they are listening to this, I just want to say I appreciate you guys giving this matchup of Goku and Superman, the respect it deserved. Um, all these, Kakarot fighters, the Breakers, the MOBA that got announced, Sparking Zero, Daima from what we're seeing with it. Like, I'm wondering if a select few people in the industry, both the entertainment and the web content industry, knew that Toriyama wasn't going to be here much longer. I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth, and I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot. I'm not trying to accuse anyone of anything, but things seem to be kind of lining up in a very interesting way, which I find that kind of interesting. But yeah, when Toriyama passed, that was a very sombering day. I remember once I saw the news, I just kind of sat in my bed for a little bit, and I was sort of thinking about it. And I mentioned this, I think, on the podcast as well. But like, I kept in my mind, I kept picturing Super Saiyan Goku, specifically during the Namek stuff, when his like gi is all torn up and he's fighting Frieza. I kept picturing that, but then my mind would like immediately take it away. Now, obviously, now I can think about Goku now, but I'm wondering if my mind was trying to say, like, hey, you need to process this a little bit. So, like, we're going to let you not think about Goku for a little bit. And for a while, I wasn't actively avoiding Dragon Ball, but it seemed like I just didn't really feel like looking at it. I might have played Xenoverse for a little bit. And obviously, maybe the Legacy of Goku games, but yeah, this was kind of a very, very tough and sad situation. And the sad thing is, like, I was thinking about this like a little bit beforehand, like before he passed. I was thinking, like, where am I going to be at when Toriyama passes? You know, what? Because at some point, you're like, yeah, we were going to have to deal with this. I was expecting to have to deal with it when I'm like 50 or 60, or even 40, which isn't that too far away because I'm 32 now. But, and then like having to understand that my favorite story of all time is functionally over. And that's kind of where we're at now. I know they're trying to kind of continue stuff, and I do hope it continues for a little bit. I don't know if I want this to continue without Toriyama. I trust Toyotaro, and I think he's starting to learn things. And I know that Akio Ioku, person who formed Capsule Corporation Japan, to because he was having some issues with the Dragon Ball room situation. Like that's kind of what I was referring to with the conflict. There seems to be some conflict with the rights to Dragon Ball and what to do with it, and what Sasuke Toriyama, who is Akira Toriyama's son, what his involvement's going to be. He apparently helped with the superhero movie, I believe. I don't know with what specifically, but or that's what I heard. That might be misinformation. Again, don't quote me on any sort of like fact stuff. You can quote me on my opinions and tell me how dumb I am or whatever. But any factual things about Toriyama's situation or his death or what's going on with Dragon Ball, don't take that at face value. Don't take that too seriously, because there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I wonder though, if I was deeper into the Dragon Ball community, if I would have had stronger inklings of the situation. I knew he was a very private man, and seeing what he was doing with Dragon Ball and how divisive things are kind of puts things into perspective too. I wonder if maybe he thought early on how much time he had, so maybe he was trying to sort of like, well, I want to kind of do as much as I can with the story before I close things out. But and when he passed, I saw a lot of tributes that I was not expecting. The Archie one, that was touching. The Smurfs one, that was touching. Just all these different people coming together and mourning the loss of this brilliant man. Like that was a very touching. And obviously, I've said my piece. I don't think I need to say too much more on it. Dragon Ball has inspired me in ways that I never expected. And I've pulled inspiration from other stuff as well. And, I've alluded to my own sort of like big story series and stuff. And Dragon Ball was a huge inspiration. Dragon Ball because I love martial arts. Like when I was watching the Batman and Spider-Man cartoons growing up, and when I could watch Ninja Turtles, I didn't really care about seeing like some science or giant monster thing. I just wanted to see Batman fight the bad guys in hand-to-hand combat, and Dragon Ball gave me that. Um, at the time, the only franchise that really gave me that kind of experience was Mortal Kombat, and even then I wasn't very good at the games, so I couldn't really enjoy it that much, so I kind of had to rely on the cartoon. But then Dragon Ball came around, and it kind of ticked every single box. So, it's kind of interesting how things work out. I guess the Double Dragon cartoon I also kind of like. So, but like growing up, yeah, I had this like real interest in like martial arts and storytelling, and I'm really happy to see Dragon Ball get as much love as it's gotten lately. I've seen people reacting to their entire watch through of Dragon Ball. Like there's this one YouTuber I've been watching called Suzy Liu, and I've been watching her watch through of Dragon Ball. I watched like the first arc through the tournament, and then I started picking and choosing episodes, and it's been very interesting. I think she's watching it probably the best way you can. I definitely think watching Dragon Ball and then going into Z is great because it gives the stuff in Z a lot more impact. Like, quite frankly, I think Dragon Ball Z might almost be the perfect sequel. Because they up the ante in a way that, like, kind of, I feel like a good sequel should, like, push the boundary even further. And you've noticed, and I've noticed that, like, One Piece and Naruto, they're doing the time skip thing. I think My Hero Academia maybe did the time skip thing. Or whatever. Of course, One Piece is like the number one thing right now, and of course, Dragon Ball and Toriyama had a huge influence on One Piece. Really, all the shonen, Shonen Jump manga had inspiration from Dragon Ball, and a lot of stuff over here had inspiration from Dragon Ball. Like, I remember, and I saw this short video about like, Gumball had a Dragon Ball Z reference. Freaking Fairly Odd Parents had like an anime reference. Friggin' The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, that Chicken Ball episode, I remember that. Dragon Ball is probably the one anime franchise to really, besides Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, to like really transcend, anime on a whole different level. Like to a point to where it's like you go to a store and you go to like the t-shirt section. There's the anime section, and then there's the Dragon Ball section. You know what I mean? And even then, like when you go to Target, like Dragon Ball shirts are always there now. And then like there's always like some anime thing that gets kind of like rotated out. I remember there was one time it was Yu Yu Hakusho, then Sailor Moon, and then My Hero Academia. But Dragon Ball is always there. And I'm hoping they'll do the Daima shirt soon. I saw Uniqlo is going to be doing Dragon Ball shirts again, which I'm really happy about that because I missed out on the Uniqlo ones, because part of my Dragon Ball collection now has turned into getting like every brand Dragon Ball t-shirt I can think of. I've got the Graphico one, I've got an Old Navy one, I've got one from Walmart, one from Target. I got the Shonen Jump one they did. Not the Uniqlo one, but like the Viz Shonen Jump brand Dragon Ball shirt. I got a primitive, I think I have two primitive ones, and I've got like another sort of like quote unquote like hip hop designer one with Beerus on it. And this and that. I got a bunch of Dragon Ball shirts. But yeah, Dragon Ball is my favorite story. In my opinion, it is the best story I've ever read. It's not perfect, but the stuff that it's not perfect at is so minor. And then when I think about how I would change it, it's like, yeah, I could change it, but at the same time, why? It's like, it's fine the way it is. And Daima's currently airing, and I've been enjoying it. I think that'll be kind of fun to talk about. That's kind of ticking a different box altogether that is giving me something that I kind of wanted from Dragon Ball. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Rest in peace, Toriyama. Thank you for everything. And yeah, at the moment, the manga's kind of on pause. They make it sound like it may come back. It'll probably be a while, though. I remember people saying that like, oh, it's not going to be until like 2026 before we even see like Super adaptate the Moro and granola stuff. And I mean, that's a bit unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. And for all we know, that might not even be true. But I feel like I'm kind of rambling on this little video. But yeah, I'll probably still review Dragon Ball stuff as it comes out. Like, obviously, I'm going to do Daima. I don't really do video game reviews anymore, so I probably won't talk about Sparking Zero on here. If we talk about it on the podcast, I'll join in on that, obviously. But other than that, probably is like the Path to Power movie I still need to review, and I think it'd be kind of cool to do like a whole series review at some point. I would want to watch the entire anime at that point. Maybe watch it subtitled, because I've never actually done that. I've seen all of Kai in Japanese, and I've seen, all of the original dubbed, or all of OG Dragon Ball dubbed, and all of Z dubbed, and all of GT dubbed, or at least most of it. But, it's a transitional time we seem to be living in. But yeah, I feel like I'm rambling. This is like 2 hours long, which is the longest Dragon Ball thing I've ever done, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this arc. The ending was very somber, and I liked seeing the mini editions with like the prologue thing with Goten and Trunks and Beta, and then the ending thing with Goku and Gohan duking it out, and seeing all these characters and that ending. But yep, we will see what happens. All we can do is look forward and move onward. Just keep moving forward and hope for the best with Dragon Ball. We've still got Daima, and we've still got Sparking Zero and that MOBA that's coming out. Plus, like, merchandise and stuff. Like, I'm still collecting the Dragon Stars figures. And, there's a lot of fan work as well out there. I know a lot of people are kind of generally don't like Dragon Ball Multiverse. I liked what I saw of it at the time. I haven't kept up with it since, and I've heard that it's not really that great right now. But this horror series, Dragon Ball The Others, is really interesting, because that's one thing I maybe also wanted to kind of see with Dragon Ball, because I mentioned this before for like a million times, but horror has been a very fruitful genre for me in a weird way, and so it'd be kind of interesting to see Dragon Ball tackle horror. I'd like to see them maybe do something with vampires. That would probably be the last thing I'd want to actually see from Dragon Ball, if you're asking me what do I want, besides just another showdown with Frieza. Find some way to tie in this like expanded universe stuff with like Xenoverse and like Heroes and all that, just so that we can set it up to where that stuff could be canon. It doesn't have to be canon, but just we have it set up to where, hey, if we decide to go that route, we can. I know we got the universes, so like the other universes, so it kind of makes sense. But and then maybe like another, like a Grand Zeno tournament or something with like select fighters, because we haven't seen the other universes that didn't have to participate in the Tournament of Power fight, because those guys might actually be crazy strong. But and also the Xenoverse DLC, as well as the Kakarot DLC that's dipping into Daima, and of course Sparking Zero is going to get DLC. So, and I'm still working through that anyway. So, yeah, that's where we're at. We still have a bit of Dragon Ball, content to go off of, but we should all probably try to get prepared for it to eventually end. I know it's unfortunate. I was really happy that we got Super, but all good things come to an end, and we have to accept it. So I'm not saying it will end. All I'm just saying is let's try to be mindful of it. And I don't think it'll end anytime soon. They're probably going to try and see if they can get it to work, but then if it doesn't, then that's that. But hopefully it'll work out, and we will see. So that's it, guys. This is Flamzeron, aka Sasuke, aka Ryan. Thank you for everything, Akira Toriyama, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.